On a quiet highway in Georgia, two police officers pulled over a black woman, expecting a routine stop. They thought they were in control, smirking as they handcuffed her and planted drugs in her car. But they had no idea who they were dealing with. This wasn't just any driver. This was Alana Brooks, the director of the DEA. Her arrest wouldn't go unnoticed. Instead, it would spark a massive investigation, one that would tear apart a corrupt system from the inside. This is a gripping story of power, betrayal, and the pursuit of justice. The morning in Georgia was calm, wrapped in silence like the world itself was still asleep. A light mist hovered above the wet road, catching the dim light of a cloudy sky. Alana Brooks was behind the wheel of her silver car, driving along a quiet, winding road. Damp air drifted through a crack in the window. She wore a simple gray sweatshirt and dark jeans, her hair tied back casually. There were no plates, no security detail, nothing to show her status back in Washington. A travel mug of coffee rested in her cup holder next to her silent phone. For the past 3 days, she had been with her family, far from the pressures of her high-powered role. She was just Aunt Alana there, laughing over card games and enjoying peach pie. For once, the world of decisions and deadlines was far behind her. Her speed was steady, 43 in a 45 zone. Everything was normal. Soft Marvin Gaye music played, and she tapped her fingers on the steering wheel in rhythm. Then she noticed it. Something flashing in her rear-view mirror. A patrol car, too close for comfort, following her with unusual patience. She slowed down and signaled to pull over. The car behind her didn't pass. Blue and red lights came on, no siren, just a silent order. She pulled onto the shoulder and placed her hands on the wheel, posture straight. It wasn't her first traffic stop. She knew how to handle it. Stay respectful, stay calm. But still, a strange feeling crept into her chest. Two officers approached. The first was an older white man with a square jaw and worn skin. He tapped the glass with 2 fingers. The other, younger and tense, stood near her trunk, watching her blind spot. "Good morning, officer. Is there a reason you stopped me?" Alana asked, lowering the window halfway. Her tone was calm but clear. The older officer didn't answer right away. His eyes moved from her face to her hands on the wheel. "License and registration," he said, voice dry and overly polite. "Routine patrol. You drifted a bit out of your lane." "I didn't feel the car swerve," she replied gently. "But here you go." She reached slowly to the glove box, moving carefully as if she'd rehearsed every motion. She handed over the documents and license. The younger officer, Trent, stepped closer to the back of the car, peering inside. The older one stared at her ID. "Brooks," he muttered. "Visiting family?" She gave a small nod without saying more. He kept her license longer than necessary, then made a small signal to his partner. "Open the trunk," he said. Alana didn't move. "Is that a request or a legal order?" she asked, her voice still calm. Trent shifted, his hand near the baton on his belt. "Got something in there we should worry about?" "I know exactly what's in my trunk," she replied. "And I'd like to know why you want to search it." "No need to argue, ma'am," the older officer said, still holding her license. "You can cooperate now, or we can do it the hard way." The air grew thick with silence. Alana finally pressed the trunk release. It popped open with a soft click. Trent walked toward the back. Alana stared straight ahead. The older officer remained at her window, face unreadable. Then Trent came back, holding a clear plastic bag with white powder inside. Well, he said, raising the bag. "Looks like you forgot something, huh?" Alana didn't flinch. "That wasn't in my trunk," she said plainly. Two officers on a quiet Georgia highway thought it would be an easy stop when they pulled over a black woman, laughing as they handcuffed her and placed drugs in her trunk. They believed they were in control, but they didn't know who they were dealing with. She wasn't just another driver. She was Alana Brooks, the director of the DEA. Her arrest wouldn't just uncover 2 corrupt cops. It would trigger an investigation that would break open a whole rotten system. This is a story about power, betrayal, and the fight for justice that will keep you hooked until the end. That morning in Georgia was silent, as if the world hadn't fully woken up. A light mist floated above the wet road, reflecting the soft gray sky. Alana Brooks drove her silver sedan along a narrow, quiet road. The cool, damp air drifted in through a crack in her window. She wore a gray sweatshirt and dark jeans, her hair tied back simply. There were no government plates, no security, nothing that revealed who she was in Washington. Her coffee sat in the cup holder, and her phone was off. She'd just spent 3 peaceful days with her family, far away from work and responsibility. She'd played card games with her niece and enjoyed homemade peach pie. For once, she was just Aunt Alana. Her dashboard showed she was driving 43 in a 45 zone. Everything was normal. Marvin Gaye played softly on the radio as she tapped the steering wheel. Then she noticed something, flashing lights in the rearview mirror. A patrol car was following her closely, too close. She slowed down, signaled, and moved over to the shoulder. The lights came on, blue and red, but no siren, a silent command. She parked, hands steady on the wheel, sitting tall. She'd been stopped before and knew how to handle it. Stay calm, be respectful. But something felt off this time. 2 officers approached. One was older, white, with a square jaw and rough skin. He tapped her window. The younger one stood by her trunk, watching carefully. "Good morning, officer. Why was I stopped?" she asked, lowering the window halfway. Her voice was calm but confident. The older officer stared at her for a moment, eyes moving from her face to her hands. "License and registration," he said flatly. "Routine stop. You were a little over the line." "I didn't notice that," she replied, keeping her voice steady. "But here's everything." She moved slowly, carefully opening the glove compartment. Her motions were deliberate, like she'd practiced them. She handed over the documents. The younger officer, Trent, stepped closer to the trunk. The older one examined her ID. "Brooks," he said, "visiting family?" She nodded, saying nothing more. He held her license a second too long, then gave Trent a signal. "Open the trunk," he said. Alana didn't move. "Is that a request or legal order?" Trent shifted, his hand near his baton. "Got something in there we should be worried about?" "I know exactly what's in my trunk," she said, "and I want to know why you're asking to search it." "We don't have to argue," the older officer replied, still holding her ID. "You could do this the easy way, or not." The silence between them grew tense. Alana finally pressed a button to open the trunk. Trent walked to the back. Alana kept her eyes forward. The older officer stayed by her window, expression unreadable. Then Trent returned holding a clear plastic bag filled with white powder. Well, he said, holding it up. "You forgot something?" Alana didn't even blink. "That wasn't in my trunk." "You sure?" he asked with a mocking grin. "I'm sure." The older officer leaned closer, his breath stale. "You're not in Washington now, ma'am. Keep acting smart, and we'll make this very unpleasant." Alana turned to look at him, calm but firm. "I know my rights. I did not consent to this search. I want a lawyer. You've shown me something that wasn't mine. This is now a formal accusation." The officer raised an eyebrow, half amused, half irritated. "Oh, now she wants a lawyer," he said to Trent. "You hear that? We've got a law professor on our hands." Trent laughed coldly. "Guilty people sure talk a lot." "I'm not guilty," Alana replied, holding her stare. "If you were sure of this arrest, you wouldn't need to act this way. You know this is illegal, and so do I." The older officer stepped closer, trying to intimidate her. "That tone of yours," he said quietly. "Keep it up, and we'll add obstruction. Out here, you learn quick. Badges mean obey." Alana didn't move. "Then obey the law and call a supervisor. Anything without one breaks your own rules." The air grew heavy with tension. Finally, the officer stepped back, face hard. "Get out of the car," he said sharply. "No," she answered firmly. "Not without a supervisor. You have no reason to search me or arrest me. And that bag didn't come from my car." The moment had passed. The older officer reached in, yanked the door open, and dragged her out. Trent helped, unbuckling her seatbelt and pulling her out with practiced movements. They didn't read her rights or explain any charges. The handcuffs were tight, too tight to be standard. It wasn't about safety. It was about punishment. Alana didn't fight, but she didn't make it easy either. She kept her back straight, her head high. "This is illegal," she said with authority. "I've followed every instruction. I've done nothing wrong. That powder wasn't in my car. I want your badge numbers and your supervisor's name." They said nothing. They marched her to the patrol car in silence, pushing her roughly. Driver slowed, watching what looked like just another arrest. No one realized who she was. That anonymity gave the officers power and put her in danger. At the station, the air smelled like old coffee and cleaning supplies. The desk sergeant barely looked up. He grabbed a clipboard and wrote down the charges, possession and obstruction. But when he typed Alana's name into the system, everything changed. He stopped. His eyes narrowed. The screen displayed a photo and a title. Brooks, Alana, Director, Drug Enforcement Administration. Clearance, Level 5. Immediate federal contact required. The sergeant's face went pale. "Ma'am, we didn't know," he stammered, reaching for the phone. "I need a secure line." Alana didn't wait. Lock down the building. Freeze all internal systems. Seal the surveillance footage. Block all access cards. This facility is now under federal control. Less than an hour later, a DEA team arrived. Officers Maddox and Calloway had vanished, but the evidence began speaking for itself. The plastic bag had a federal tracking code. It came from a warehouse with seized drugs. It should never have left. Someone had stolen federal evidence and used it to frame Alana. The investigation uncovered more. Body cam footage was missing. Records showed that most of their stops involved Black or Latino drivers. One case stood out. Jordan Lamar, 22 years old. He died in custody. The cause, suicide. But video taken by a witness, never submitted, showed Maddox and Calloway using brutal force during the arrest. Alana ordered the case reopened. She demanded autopsies, phone logs, everything connected to deaths in custody. An anonymous informant revealed more. Maddox and Calloway had worked in 5 departments. Each time, they were close to large drug seizures. Afterward, those drugs disappeared. They were protected by a system called CINO, a hidden protocol that erased records and helped cover their tracks. But Alana found out CINO was an error. It was a design network. It moved seized drugs into the black market under the cover of secret operations. Her pursuit led to a desert ambush in Texas. Alana led the mission herself. Maddox and Calloway were captured after a violent showdown. But the real mastermind, Marcus Belt, was still out there, a former agent who had faked his death. He had created CINO. They found him in Houston, hiding in a tech bunker surrounded by servers and fake IDs. He didn't resist. His calm was unsettling, like he believed the system would outlive him. Alana later testified before Congress, exposing the full scope of the corruption. Mass arrests followed. Whole departments were shut down. CINO was dismantled, replaced by Lamar, a new, transparent system named in honor of Jordan Lamar, a system to make sure no case would ever be hidden again. When Alana left her final hearing, the sun was shining on a city beginning to recover. There were no cheers, just silence, a silence that showed people were finally paying attention. Justice hadn't come with fanfare. It had come through the strength of a woman who refused to back down. Now, the system that once protected the guilty is working to defend the innocent. But the question remains, how deep in corruption go before someone stops it? What stories still remain hidden? Tell us your thoughts in the comments, and let us know where you're listening from. If this story meant something to you, share it with someone who needs to know. Truth may come late, but it always arrives.